I am honored to be joined by incredible labor leaders in this fight. Teamster local President Tom Mari, United Food and Commercial Workers 7, Local 791, Director of Political and Legislative Affairs, Peter DeRuin, International Brotherhood of Teamster Eastern Regional Organizing Coordinator for the Amazon Division, Chris Smolinski, former Amazon warehouse worker, Max Cardoni, and along with the local leaders who have joined us here today. We are going to have an incredible group of speakers who will be talking about this critical issue of ensuring workers' rights are extended to people who work in these warehouses here and all across our country. This Labor Day, we celebrate the storied history of workers in this country fighting for the pay, for the benefits, for the rest, for the safety, and for the dignity which they deserve. We're no strangers to that history here. Revere is a union city. Massachusetts is a union state. Since long before my father served as a union vice president, and even before my grandfather, Patrick Markey, toiled in the Lawrence Mills, workers here have organized for their rights. Upton Sinclair wrote in The Jungle in 1905, workers are at the mercy of exploiters whose one thought is to get as much out of them as is possible. We may be talking about new distribution facilities instead of 20th century meatpacking plants, but corporations are just using new technology to tell the same old story. Corporate CEOs will drive workers into the ground to extract as much profit as possible. In 2023, Amazon brought in $30 billion in profit. Meanwhile, 1 in 15 Amazon warehouse workers were injured on the job. Instead of chief executive officers, CEOs should be called chief extraction officers. In the name of unchecked profiteering and greed, Amazon has perfected a punishing quota system that pushes workers to and beyond their physical limits. They use dystopian surveillance technology to monitor workers' every move. They set requirements for how many packages workers have to scan without telling workers what those requirements actually are. Then they fire workers who fail to win at this impossible game. These high-tech quota systems are shrouded in secrecy and enforced punitively, creating a culture of fear that leads workers to break their own backs to try to keep their paycheck, make rent, put food on the table, or fill a prescription. I've heard stories from dozens of these workers. A picker who developed arthritis because his manager actually denied a request to switch job placements since he was too useful at hitting an arbitrary quota. A single mom who hurt her knee on the line and Amazon sent her back to work only to discover weeks later her excruciating pain was from a torn meniscus. A worker who tried to keep up with holiday quotas so she could make rent that month, who ended up crushing the discs in her spine. She may never recover. But Amazon workers are rising up and organizing in the proud tradition of countless workers before them. They are fighting tooth and nail for safety and dignity in their work, and we are going to pass the Warehouse Worker Protection Act because we have their backs. The Warehouse Protection Act would put an end to the most dangerous quotas that plague warehouses. The bill would ban quotas that make it impossible for workers to use the bathroom or take guaranteed breaks, require companies to tell workers what quotas they have to meet, and prohibit quotas that rely on 24/7 surveillance. or penalize workers for even taking short breaks. That is a violation of health and safety law. And for those who refuse to comply, this bill allows the Department of Labor to hold companies to account. We have to prohibit quotas that pit workers against each other, where slower workers are sanctioned no matter how they actually perform. We need to make sure that we have investigations. We have to make sure that we have substantial penalties which are imposed upon these companies. The Warehouse Worker Protection Act says that injuries are not just the cost of doing business. The cost of doing business in this country is guaranteeing worker safety, is guaranteeing worker dignity. Before my father drove a truck, he worked in a factory. There he was in an accident in a machine, and his finger was crushed, and it was cut off. When he talked to the boss about it, the boss just said to him, "See you back at work on Monday, John." And my father had another finger which he used in order to describe his attitude towards the boss and that company. And it reflects, in fact, how too many workers in our country, even today, feel about it. That was before OSHA. And organized labor worked to create OSHA. And my father and all workers today are beneficiaries of that work. Well, we now have to pass new laws in order to protect those that work in warehouses, to ensure that the people who today are being exploited are given the legal protections that previous generations of workers received after there was an organized union effort to guarantee those rights. So that's why we're here today. We're here in order to make sure that we build this movement of worker dignity and safety and power, and we're going to take back the rights of warehouse workers. That's why we're here today. That's why we have so many great political and union leaders who are joining us here today. You cannot beg for your rights. You have to take them. You have to stand up and fight for your rights. That's what's happening here today. We're seeing the beginning of the movement to fight to protect everyone's rights, especially those who are most vulnerable. And we're going to do it insistently and persistently and consistently until we win those rights for everyone in our Commonwealth and all across our country. So that's why we're here today. We're joined by Darlene Lombros, who is a great leader for Greater Boston. Thank you for joining us here today. And we're going to hear first from Tom Murray, who is a third-generation Teamster and has been a driving force behind Local 25's effort to secure union representation and better conditions for Amazon workers. I'm proud to be in this fight with you, Tom. Welcome.
Thank you, Senator Markey. It's no surprise that you introduced the Warehouse Workers Protection Act in the Senate. You're champion for workers' rights, standing up against greedy corporations who abuse and disrespect workers. You have fought for workers throughout your entire career in Washington and right here in Massachusetts. The Teamsters, Local 25, are proud to stand with you in this fight. It's also fitting that we make this stand here in Massachusetts, right outside of Boston, right outside of an Amazon warehouse. We respect and value workers around here, and nobody fights harder than Teamsters Local 25, holding companies accountable to the high standards we, the Teamsters, have set for workers here. This is the heart of Teamster country, and nobody fights harder than Teamsters Local 25. Teamsters in the warehouse industry make strong wages and support their families and have a voice in the job to demand safety and fairness. The Teamsters Local 25 are fighting hard every day to help all warehouse get wages, benefits, and respect they deserve. The Warehouse Worker Protection Act is about ending abuse and arbitrary production quotas that Amazon is spreading across the industry. It's about making Amazon accountable and making sure that workers' health and safety isn't sacrificed for a profit. On a state level, we're working with State Senator Lydia Edwards on a warehouse workers bill. Senator Edwards represents Revere, among other communities, so is very familiar to this Amazon warehouse. She is also a champion for workers, fighting by our side, advocating for workers' rights, going all out to get safety protections in place for these workers. These greedy corporations need to be held accountable. It's not acceptable for Amazon or any company to sacrifice the health and safety of its workers to boost the bottom line. But that's exactly what Amazon is doing to its workers inside warehouses, just like the one you see right here, brothers and sisters. It's a little more than 2 years ago, Teamsters voted the strongest UPS contract in history. The fight to win that contract was launched right here in Boston. Our members led the campaign that resulted in increased wages, but also protections that seem simple, like air conditioning in the trucks, like routine breaks. Those are the things we fight for daily. Since then, we continue to hold the company accountable, and we want to see all workers have these protections. A few years ago, we took our pro-worker message directly to Amazon and targeted cities and towns where Amazon planned to open up warehouses. Starting in Boston and then through several other communities in the area, we're able to work with local municipality leaders to send Amazon a message that if they open and operate in communities, they are certainly going to set the standards that we provide. They're going to follow those standards. Teamsters Local 25 will not rest. We will not relent, and we will never stop fighting to hold Amazon to those standards. You will hear from Amazon workers shortly. You will hear a first-hand account of the dangerous work environment, the horrific abuse heaped on these workers. You will be shocked to hear about the rules that Amazon expects workers to adhere to. It's deplorable. Taking a break to go to the bathroom, or eating lunch, or just a legally protected break to get a rest should not be something that workers are afraid to do. Amazon instills fear in these workers so that they can boast faster truck deliveries. It is inhumane, simply sickening. Teamsters in the warehouse industry are respected, earn very good wages, and have support and demand safety and fairness on the job. But we believe every worker should be able to make a livable wage and have a voice. That's why we're standing with Amazon workers and ready to fight with them, for them, along with Senator Markey and Senator Edwards. Thank you very much. Remember, together we win, divided we beg. Have a great day.
Beautiful. Tremendous.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Excellent. Thank you, Tom. And I introduced the bill nationally down in Washington with Sean O'Brien, the international president of the Teamsters. He was there. He was speaking at that. This is the movement of this generation. My grandfather, Patrick Markey, worked in the mills of Lawrence in 1912 when the Bread and Roses strike of Lawrence began. My grandfather was there working in the mills. Well, these are the mills of the 21st century, these warehouses where these Amazon workers are being exploited, and they are rising up in the same way that those mill workers of Lawrence in 1912 began a strike that spread across the whole country. It begins here in Revere. Next, we're going to hear from Peter DeRuin, the political director of UFCW Local 791. Welcome, Peter.
Good morning. I want to thank Senator Markey for his leadership and his advocacy on this very important legislation and this issue. And I definitely want to thank my brothers and sisters from the Teamsters Union who, fight every day for not just pay and benefits, but how people are treated on the job, that they're in a safe working environment, and that everybody goes, has a chance to work for a good living, but they're safe when they're on the job. Of the 4,000 members of the United Food and Commercial Workers Union Local 791, 550 of them work in two warehouses, one in Methuen, Mass, and the other in Wells, Maine. And warehouse work is a very physically demanding job from the time that the worker enters the facility until he leaves the facility. Every second they're on the job is measured. Unfortunately, many of these standards are barely achievable, resulting in high numbers of on-the-job injuries for thousands of workers in warehouses across this country. Large warehouses like Amazon use strict quota systems that has resulted in the doubling of the overall injury rate in this industry. Quotas need guardrails and should not come at the expense of a worker's health or personal safety. The Warehouse Worker Protection Act includes critical safeguards and standards for warehouse workers operating under these quota systems. The bill will provide transparency to workers, prohibit the most dangerous quotas, and provide serious enforcement for the egregious violations. The bill would also give the Department of Labor the ability to oversee employer quotas, ensuring that they are fair and transparent. It would also ensure that in the case of an accident, workers can get treated quickly and effectively. This legislation will help all warehouse workers, including the workers that we represent and that the Teamsters represent, but especially non-union. And I know this from experience because I did this job for a better part of 10 years. The big difference in a union warehouse that's represented in the warehouse is that we have safety committees, we have the grievance and arbitration. If we feel that the standards are too tight, we bring in a time study engineer who come into the facility and perform a full assessment of the standard. What we do thereafter depends on the result of the engineer's report. We have safety committees who, in both of our facilities, to review the same disputes in the standard and that are proven to be causing a safety issue. Our union has filed many grievances and filed charges with the National Labor Relations Board about quotas in the past. The company has always worked with us to settle before the charges get to a hearing. They will try anything to squeeze whatever they can out of anybody. The big difference between this sweatshop and the facilities that the UFCW and the Teamsters represent is that we have a seat at the table to make sure that these people are treated right. This bill is about safety and dignity of workers. Warehouse workers need and deserve safe and working conditions, and Congress needs to act and pass the Warehouse Worker Protection Act. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Peter. Next, we're going to hear from Chris Smolinski, Director of Organizing for Teamsters Local 25. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you, Senator Markey. And thank you to all our electeds who have championed the bills to advocate on behalf of working people here in Massachusetts. I also want to say thank you to my president, Tom Murray, who's in the trenches each and every day fighting and advocating for working people in this great state. It's about time that we take these companies head on. We got this company right here, Amazon, in our backyard. Just this morning, because union activists and labor were out here, they locked the gates like it was 1917. Break time was supposed to be between 10 and 11 o'clock this morning. We have not seen one person come out. Why do you think that is? Because Amazon is afraid. Workers are taking action all across the country. They're taking action, taking over the shop floor and demanding changes. We've seen strikes in California, in Michigan, in Atlanta, New York, New Jersey, Boston. Workers are taking action all around the country, and they're getting supported by their communities. We need the support from our electeds as well. There's a lot more that needs to be changed, and the Warehouse Worker Protection Bill is just the beginning of it. We need NLRB reform. We need standards and productivity reform. We need a lot of different changes to actually make these decent jobs where people can afford their homes. We hear horror stories every single day. We had a kid this morning trying to squeeze through the gate telling us that he had to run in and talk to his manager because working here, he can't afford a cell phone. That's horrible. And that's just a small monetary thing. I was talking to a woman the other day who was telling me how she has to go out as a flex driver and bring her kids, and that she has no health insurance because they're treated as subcontractors. The only thing Amazon cares about is the bottom line on the balance sheet. They do not care about the workers one bit. The industry injury rate is through the roof. Their wages and benefits do not provide for a family. Their working conditions are horrible, and they continuously grow. So if I could say one thing, I would say that remember this, every time that you order a package or one's getting delivered to your house, that a worker is being exploited behind that package. Remember that. And things need to change. I'm not going to get into the stories, but we do have a former Amazon worker here that would like to share a story. Mac's been through a lot, so I'd like to call up Max to share his story.
Hello, I'm Maximus Cardoni. I worked at Amazon for about 3 years. I started during the 2020-2019 pandemic, and I started there because I needed a job and they were hiring. Money at first wasn't terrible. It obviously isn't great, but it was better than minimum to start. It quickly became a realization to me that the work and the amount of quota meeting that you have to do, the ever-moving and ever-shifting goalposts that you have to constantly try to meet and overpass those expectations that are unsustainable, really created a brutalist and horrible work environment. There were many, many, many instances of workers not being able to gain access to water during the summer, people passing out, hitting their heads on conveyor belts. I got injured in a trailer one summer because a free-moving package of carts was rolling down the trailer, which caused my arm to get pinned between the stack of carts and the trailer wall, which had a jagged piece of metal, and I ended up getting cut all the way down the arm, and I still have a scar on my wrist today. I had to get 3 stitches, and they wouldn't let me go home. I had to use my own personal time to leave the warehouse, and they wouldn't cover that. I was lucky enough to have insurance through my father, who is a TWU worker. Thanks to a union, I was able to get the medical attention that I needed. Workers at Amazon have a very defeatist mentality. A lot of the time, they just think, oh, I can't make change by myself, and they don't realize that everybody there has the power to make the change together. We managed to get several wins in this facility. We managed to get scheduled break times. We pressured them into giving us a $1 raise. We managed to force them into installing an AC unit in that facility, which has a black tar roof and no insulation. So during the summer, you would see temperatures in sections of that warehouse hitting 115, 120 degrees with nonstop work. Delayed breaks to meet quotas. One day in the middle of the summer, we even had it was 95,000 packages that we were scheduled to handle and deal with. They ended up tacking on another 20,000 packages because some other warehouse couldn't meet their quota, so they tacked it onto us, and we all had to end up stay an extra hour at the end of the shift. No overtime pay. We, in this warehouse, cannot afford to make basic necessities, basic living needs. So many workers have kids that they can't really afford to take care of. We have rent that we can't pay, all because they don't pay nearly enough for the backbreaking labor that we do there. Sorry, a little bit nervous. That's why I am very honored and very happy that Senator Markey here is championing the Warehouse Workers Protection Act in the Senate. And I just want to thank him one last time. Thank you, Senator Markey.
Great job. Great job, Max. Great job, Max. And again, we're in a union city, and we have the mayor of Revere, Patrick Keefe, who was with us.
Thank you, Senator. And welcome to Revere, Senator Markey, and our distinguished union leaders, Tom, David, Peter. Thank you very much. And to our honored guests and our other local elected officials that are here with us today. It's a privilege to have you in Revere, a city that proudly stands shoulder to shoulder with our union brothers and sisters. Revere isn't just a union city. We're a community that recognizes the vital role unions play in safeguarding our workers' rights. Senator Markey has once again showing us all what true leadership looks like with the Warehouse Workers Protection Act. This legislation sends a powerful message to Washington and the entire nation. The workers' safety and dignity are non-negotiable. We're fortunate in Massachusetts to have leaders like Senator Markey, a true champion for labor rights, yet we understand that not every state shares our good fortune. That's why Senator Markey's leadership in D.C. is so crucial. It sets the standard for fair treatment across the country, sending a message about what a true worker justice means and really means to us. Revere won't just watch from the sidelines. We're in this fight together. We respect our workers, and we will stand right alongside you. To our many Revere residents and union employees, we stand along you as well. Thank you, Senator Markey, for your tireless advocacy. Revere stands along you. We're very, very fortunate. Neighboring town, Senator represents not just Malden, but the entire state, of course. Came from Malden, never forgot where he came from, never forgot his roots when he talks about his father and his parents and how he grew up, and has always protected Revere. And we are exceptionally lucky to have him fighting for the entire country as our senator and our friend. So thank you for being here today.
Great. Thank you. Yeah, and actually on Revere Beach, there's a beautiful bridge that goes over from the Wonderland Station over to the beach. There's just this beautiful bridge that looks like the Zakim Bridge. And the city of Revere asked me if it would be okay to name it after my mother and father, because what my father would do is he'd go off to drive the truck during the day, and my mother would take my two brothers and I down to Malden Square, and would get on the blue bus and go down to Revere Beach, and then we'd spend a day on Revere Beach. And there was no cottage in Maine or Cape Cod or Nantucket. It's a blue-collar town, and now the new generations of immigrants are using that same beach, and it's really what we have to do, because in the same way that the Bread and Roses strike stood up in order to fight for that generation of workers, that's what's happening again today. And in many, many instances, they are immigrants as well. They're black, they're brown, they're women, they are being exploited, and we are going to make sure that they get the protections which they need. Senator Lydia Edwards is introducing the legislation here in the Massachusetts State Legislature, but she has great partners here from Revere and from Winthrop. And first I'm going to introduce Jessica Giannino, who is the great state representative from the city of Revere. Welcome, Jessica.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you so much, Senator, and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the great city of Revere. I'm so honored to be standing with you today, shoulder to shoulder. Senator Markey, thank you for being a champion for labor for as long as you have on Capitol Hill. We are so lucky to have you, making sure that bad actors like Amazon don't put profits over people. And in the city of Revere, we know what that means, because we know that strong families start with strong union jobs. We know that having safe environments to work in mean that core of having a safe job, having a safe workplace, having a wage that not only is livable, but a wage that you can raise a family on, means our communities have a strong backbone. And without those things in place, we can't build a community, right? So it's so important to have our brothers and sisters in labor here, like President Mari, like our brothers and sisters from UFCW, and all of our other unions that are here today, to stand up for what's right. I'm honored to represent the city of Revere, and also part of the town of Saugus, where if you go just down the road at the other end of this rotary is a UPS facility that is represented by the Teamsters. And I know that my constituents that are at that facility have representation, and I know that when there's a problem, the Teamsters are there, because they have been. And when there's an issue, they show up and they fight for my constituents shoulder to shoulder with them, and I'll always be there to have their back. And I want to make sure that my constituents in this building have those same opportunities and have that same protection and have that same support, because I know when my constituents are protected in a union that they have those opportunities, that they have a safe place to work, that they have a paycheck that they can raise their family on, and that they have opportunities that will protect them in generations, because that generational wealth and that generational support doesn't start here. It starts at facilities that are built by union labor, by our constituents that have union protections and that are supported by us in that way. Senator, thank you for your fight on Capitol Hill. Thank you for everything that you're doing for the great city of Revere, for remembering where you came from, because we remember that you're from here. We're so, so grateful. You know, as the mayor mentioned, the city of Revere has strong, strong, strong union ties. We're a blue-collar community. I see former Councilor Morbido out there. When we served in the council together, the city of Revere was one of the first communities to pass the wage theft ordinance. We're still fighting for that on Beacon Hill.
Beautiful.
But that started in the city of Revere. So thank you. Thank you for what you're doing today, and God bless.
Beautiful, beautiful. And partnering with Senator Lydia Edwards and Jessica up on Beacon Hill will be State Representative Jeffrey Turco from Winthrop as well. Welcome, Jeffrey.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Tom, and thank you, everyone, for being here today. I did want to acknowledge Senator Edwards isn't here because not only is she committed to serving and helping the workers in this Commonwealth, in this country, but she's in basic training right now, serving the United States National Guard as a JAG officer. So we think of Senator Edwards, and we thank her for her service and her willingness to do so. I'm so honored to be on the stage with Senator Markey. You know, for 50 years, you have literally dedicated your life to making working people's lives better, making this community better. I grew up in the city of Revere, live in Winthrop for the last 20 years, but everything that you've done, Senator, has been working for and improving the quality of life for the working men and women that made America great, that made Revere great. I grew up in Revere on Reservoir Ave. Every other household was a member of the building trades, was a Teamster, was a police officer, a firefighter, or a hotel worker. Every day that understood that their elected leaders recognized the dignity of what they did and that they would deserve to go to work and be safe. In 1964, Robert Kennedy gave a speech in South Africa on the Day of Affirmation speech, and part of it he said, we must do this not because it is economically advantageous, although it is, not because the laws of God command it, although they do. We must do it for the single fundamental reason it is the right thing to do. Well, this bill that you've introduced, Senator, and that Senator Edwards has introduced is the right thing to do for working men and women. I'm so proud to stand up here with you and the members of the labor unions to say enough is enough. Jeff Bezos just announced he bought his $80 million jet the other day, and meanwhile, men and women working in these warehouses are getting hurt. We need to take a stand. We need to talk to our neighbors and our friends to say there is something wrong with being complicit in the evil that Amazon does to its workers when we go and we put small shops out of work and out of business because it's easy to go online, click, 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 and order our products. We need to take a stand because the only way these people are going to understand to respect the rights of the dignity of working men and women is if we hurt their bottom line. Thank you very much. God bless.
Thank you. Thank you. We're also joined by City Councilor Juan Jaramillo, who has joined us as well. Thank you, Juan, very much. And so any questions that anyone may have about, we'll come down for the press conference.